pretty good. Uh, this is my first time using my phone for this, so
Oh,
just
cool.
making sure that everything is
Good.
fine.
Doing a good job so far.
Yeah, I'm really not tech savvy. I tried doing a live yesterday and no one could hear me, so I'm
Oh,
still
dang.
figuring this whole thing out.
Yeah, live on Instagram?
On Facebook. Yeah, I use this like third party thing to do Facebook, YouTube, at the same time,
Oh, okay.
and I couldn't get it to work.
Oh, so like, but what were you doing live? Like, were you doing like self-development stuff or?
Yeah, so I just started a new Facebook group called Savage Resilience, and it's ultimately about building people's confidence. So I broke it down into three different levels.
Yeah.
So this week
Wait,
we're
what was it called
focusing on
again?
inner confidence, and then next week is Savage Resilience.
Savage Resilience.
Yeah, so it's just, yeah.
Cool.
It's really a blog that I started, and then I decided to make a Facebook group. So it just felt like it was easier to interact with people.
Heck yeah. So break down those levels again, please. What were they?
Oh yeah, so confidence. So it's inward confidence, or I just say inner confidence because it's easier. Outer confidence, and then lifestyle confidence. So I've just broken it down so that people understand the levels of confidence. So really starting with yourself, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, um, that kind of stuff, and then getting into building and constructing better habits and stuff like that. And then lifestyle confidence is really just about confronting your life with confidence and just your overall kind of, you know, building your own mantra, building your own philosophy on life and that kind of stuff. So,
That's
yeah.
freaking awesome. That's so cool.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I just like talking about confidence. And honestly, that was the easiest way for me to break it down. That way people understood, like that it, there are levels to, I guess, getting to wherever you want as far as your overall level of confidence. So I guess it's kind of like a beginner stage, intermediate, and then advanced level. But I think it was important for me to just break it down into smaller ideas so that way people aren't overwhelmed with, what confidence really means and learning how to be, more confident in general and having a better relationship with themselves, but then also trying to change every single bad habit that they have and all of this stuff. So really just focusing on one thing at a time. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really incredible. It's so important that you're doing something like this because that's something that people really need. It's like not a lot of people suffer from that lack of confidence, and there's actually like ways for us to reprogram our mind and to start building up these healthy habits and
Mhm.
letting go of all the toxic ones. How did you start building your philosophies?
Oh, yeah. Um, that's a really good question. So, I mean, ultimately, I struggled with depression for a really long time since I was in elementary school, as far back as I can remember. And I never really went to therapy or really got a hold of how to, deal with anything. In high school, I was in and out of the hospital for ulcers. I mean, I was always like stressed and just anxious, and just everything was horrible. My health was horrible. And then when I moved to California after graduation, my freshman year, obviously, I went to CalU. My freshman year, it was just pretty toxic, honestly. My roommate situation was bad. My professors were kind of ridiculing me for certain things. Like, I just felt like my overall treatment wasn't great on top of dealing with everything else that I was dealing with. And so I kind of let my depression and everything get the best of me. I ended up losing my scholarship. Like, I was still doing my work and getting great grades, but I wasn't going to class. And I just started hanging out with different people. I started, a lot more negative, bad habits like drinking more and stuff like that. And then once I lost my scholarship, I moved back home because I thought, okay, maybe I need to figure out if this is the right move for me, moving all the way to California and stuff. And then some things have, happened and transpired over that time. And so I was dealing with a lot of trauma. And so I actually locked myself in my room at home. And I just, I always had self development books around me. So I just kept thinking, you know what, something's got to work. One of these is, got to have some type of answer. And so I just started reading and reading more. And then I started reading more of my psychology books. doing more research online, and just figuring out like how do people get out of this, because I knew I wanted to get out of it. That was my first decision. I needed to decide if I wanted to get out of it or if I wanted to, quit. And I wanted to go to California for a reason. So I felt like all of that, had to mean something. So long story short, I actually I'm at home now. So I don't know if you can see like the little things on the wall.
Yeah, what is that?
They're literally just like labels. And so I created a vision wall. And I started thinking, I think the biggest problem with me is I couldn't see my future. I couldn't see myself being successful or being happy or whatever it was. So I kept thinking, I like Pinterest. So let me just, Pinterest my wall. And I started making a list of all of the things that I wanted and finding pictures that represented it. And I just put it all up there. Like it's just quotes, like how I wanted my hair to grow, my bedroom, my future apartment, and all these different things. And that just gave me some really, really good encouragement in knowing that my life can get better. It can look exactly like this. So that's where I started focusing on the whole confidence thing and getting to know myself more. And then after that was really constructing better habits and, really honing in on who I am and my identity and my creative aspects and stuff like that. So I'm not really sure if that's a long way of answering your question, but that's how I went about it.
Yeah, that's really tight. That's so these are on your wall, are they phrases? They're words, right?
So yeah, these are just the labels. All of the pictures I removed because this was like 2016.
Yeah.
But I make a vision wall every year. Even at Kalu, in my dorm, I would always have posters that I printed, and they would be either things that I want to do every single day or just pictures of like my goals and stuff like that. And my last apartment, I'm working on my vision wall now, but I have like probably 200 different pictures, and they're all based on different things like hobbies, my new house when I get that, and just different things. So yeah, some of them are quotes, some of them are images that I just found online, stuff like that.
Heck yeah. Yeah, it's so important to like be conscious and aware of the things that like we're feeding our senses, like what we like consume with our eyes and with our ears. So it definitely makes a huge difference because like if you have an empowering phrase in front of you and you see it every day, that's how you're going to start programming yourself, and that's like the frequency that you're going to start running on. That's freaking awesome. So
Thank
what kinds
you.
of books are you into though? Like is there just like what are like
Um,
some top 3 that really gave you what you needed?
okay. Well, I really do love, obviously self-development books, but I love reading a lot of research too. Like I'm more into like Google Scholar, and I love reading like studies and stuff like that, like stuff that's real, I guess, work that people are doing that are getting real results. I love self development books, but I just feel like there isn't always a lot of science to it. And I like the numbers because that was my background. That was what I studied. And when I was getting my psychology degree, I was doing studies based off of my own kind of stuff with confidence and trying to figure out how can I make sure that I'm getting the best results. But as far as books that really changed things for me, I would say The Four Agreements was one book that I read my freshman year. I love that book.
Heck yeah.
My goal was to read it again this year because I only read it once. Um, The 48 Laws of Power is my number one fave. Like, I read that book
Yeah.
1,000 times. My book is literally torn apart. Like, that's how much I've grabbed it and just, yeah. And then I would have to say Rich Dad Poor Dad because that was the very first book that I read with the intention of changing my mindset. And I read it when I was working at Denny's. I remember my manager pulled me to the side one day and he was just like, you know what? You're better than this. You have to start figuring out what your next step is. And he said, are you going to be serious about this? And I was like, yeah, I guess. I was like 16 or 17. And he was like, I'm serious. Are you going to be serious? And I was like, yeah, sure. So he told me to meet him at Panera Bread like the next day. And we had a meeting at 3 o'clock. He gave me the book and that was it. He was like, you need to read this book. I'm giving you 2 days. And then if you read it, you can tell me about it, blah, blah, blah. We'll move forward. If not, then whatever. And I took it seriously. I read the book. I went online. I was just like, how have I never known about this? And so that was a really big thing for me, not just changing my mentality as far about money, but really just helping me to think bigger and understand that, I can kind of manifest whatever life I want. And I think that's when I was first introduced to it. So it was like a real progression. Like the books that I've read all came at the best time in my life where something was, kind of happening around that. So I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, all those are really like incredible and powerful books. I love all those.
Yeah, I saw you nodding. Yeah, I mean, honestly, and I love it when people are familiar with that, or if I can like put someone on to a new book. So I just bought one new book yesterday. I don't even remember what it was called, but this girl told me about it, and I just bought it immediately. Um, but it was about, I think it was called Do One Thing, something like that. It's really just about, not focusing on doing 20 different things at once, because I have so many different brands, and I'm literally every single day I feel like I'm doing a webinar or an interview or like a workshop or something, or I'm talking with people. I'm just doing so many different things, and it's supposed to help you to, kind of focus. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool to hear how busy you are. Like you're on that hustle.
Yeah, I think part of it at first was because I was trying to kind of escape certain things. Like I think 2016, 2017, I was trying so hard to avoid going back to that dark place that I just kept busy, kept busy. I first started with social media marketing, and I was just always like doing cold calls, meeting people, just trying to keep busy. And then after that, I think about a year of that, I was able to kind of find a little bit of a balance where it wasn't me trying to escape, or avoid getting back to that place. I felt genuinely that it was so far beyond that that it wasn't even a possibility for me. So,
Yeah. I'm interested to hear about all the brands that you have. Can you mind talking about that for a little bit?
yeah. So I'm still trying to figure out how to organize everything. So I have Glow Guidance, which is my coaching business. So with this, I started in college too. This was originally just for students. I would host a lot of like workshops weekly, mostly online. But what I would do is just help students to really work with time management. 'Cause for me, even in high school, I created my own planners for college planning, for SATs, stuff like that. And I was just really good at organizing stuff. So I was helping other people do that. And then eventually it just grew into whatever the heck it is now. I guess now it's a coaching practice. But really, what I do, I'm an accountability partner. So I don't really like to think of it as coaching. Like, I just help encourage people to kind of plan and organize their lives more effectively based on whatever it is their goals are. Because I feel like a lot of people, if they, do know what their goals are or what they want to do, they don't really know how to start or how to make time for it and stuff like that. And then I told you about Savage Resilience. Now, that originally where that whole idea came about, I think it was last year. I really just wanted something that not really just empowered women, but I wanted something that was more of a lifestyle brand. And so I was looking into the name, like my name and the meaning behind my name. And my name is O'Shea, which comes from, I believe it's Irish. The original form is like Oseganda, and it means dauntly or stately. And Renee, it's the male form, so it's the female and then the male form for both of my names. That's my middle name, and that one means rebirth. And so I just kept thinking, like, I've got to do something with this. And it started with Oshea Rene, and then it ended up with Savage Resilience. And ultimately, what it was about was me, how I built my own philosophy on just living my own life. Because what I want people to understand is I don't want them to do things the way I did or the way that anybody else did. I want them to figure out, what in their, life experience kind of creates that for them. So that's what the group is about. Everything is so like ambiguous right now because I have no idea what I'm doing with it. I just know that I'm doing something. um, I have self growth journals, which are just a series of journals that I've made. Honestly, that's pretty simple. They're just workbooks. I like to create them in my spare time, always have. And then, yeah, now I think I have like 4 or 5. I'm working on like 3 more right now. I'm actually working on a Mean Girls one, which is really fun, like the burn book, but it's a vision book. So I just like to, I don't know, I come up with these crazy little ideas. I came up with this like 3 o'clock in the morning, like 2 weeks ago.
That's when it happens.
Yeah. I think, I mean, for the most part, that's it. I just started a new brand, Self Honeymoon. Now, this one, I've been doing interviews with women almost every day, and it's just like an article form. But I'm interviewing everyday women, people that are not influencers or don't have a large brand or following and stuff like that. Um, and I'm trying to showcase their self love journey and show them that one, like, it's okay to not be all together right now. I don't think that anyone truly is, even people like Tony Robbins and Oprah. And so showing them that it's okay to be a masterpiece and also a work in progress, because a lot of the women that I've interviewed feel like they don't have anything to offer. But I mean, some of the women I've spoken with, like this one girl, she is 16 years old and she is so far more advanced. I mean, she's had to deal with way more than most 16-year-olds have to deal with. And the way that she's carrying herself and, still sees like her future and her vision and knows that not to take it personal, her mindset is just ridiculously strong. And so, I mean, I just want to show women like that, don't know how much, their story has value and how much it can, impact other people. So those are the main brands, I think.
That's cool. It's really like I love how everything is just geared towards really improving everybody like from within, like how you said, like you don't necessarily want to be a coach, but you want to like help
Yeah.
people guide them along to help them figure out what they want to do and like create their own journey. That's I was gonna say something about the not taking things personal. That's one of the 4 agreements, and
Hmm.
the 16-year-old that you're talking about. Like I wish like I could have thought like that at 16. So I definitely feel you.
Right. Like if I had known some of the things that she had known, I mean, and she experienced a lot of trauma, in order to get there.
Mm.
And while that is unfortunate, it's incredible to know that, hopefully she stays on that path and she'll just build on that as she gets older. Because I feel like that was why I really started all of this in general, is because I didn't want people to have to go through what I went through when I was, in elementary school and middle school, where I was severely depressed and suicidal. And I mean, I was so ambitious. And it's not that, I didn't want to be here. It's just I did not know how to manage anything that was going on in my life. And I didn't know how to manage my emotions, or I did take things personally. I was very sensitive and I just didn't have the tools. And so that's what I like to do, is kind of give them access to the resources that work, for them.
Yeah. Have you read a book called The Power of Now?
No, it's on my list though.
Yeah, that one's definitely like a heavy hitter. One thing in that you just kind of reminded me of is there's um there's like a homeless man sitting on a chest, and then
Hmm.
you walk by, the homeless man asks like, "Hey, do you have any money?" And then you say, "No, but why don't you take a look in that chest that you're sitting on?" And the homeless man gets up and looks in the chest, and he realizes that he's been sitting on treasure this whole time.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's like we have this treasure that's inside of us, and we just have to like find that awareness to be able to like open it up. And
Right.
yeah,
That's incredible. The power. I'm
yeah,
gonna write that down.
yeah. Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I think he's a little
Oh,
Austrian
yeah,
man.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's definitely on my list, but that'll be my next book. Wow. That's a really good way of, kind of putting that, I guess.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. Sometimes like we just need someone like you to show them how to like just that you can like actually stand up and look inside, as opposed
Yeah.
to just like
Like
sitting
I
down
like
and
to just
asking
think
for
of
help.
myself really like as a facilitator. And like that's really it. Like I like to, push people and encourage them to be their best selves. But, just like I don't remember who said it. God, I don't remember who said it. But she was speaking about women finding their voices. And it's not about women finding their voices, it's about them having enough, you know, not just confidence and faith, but feeling that enough of their power to know that they can voice their opinions, that they can just step into their power and hone that. Like, we already have a voice, we just need to feel empowered to use it. You already have that power inside of you. So just figuring out a way to kind of unleash that power and really step into it and embrace the uncomfort. I mean, the discomfort, embrace the uncertainty, and just know that whatever does come, this is all you. You have the answers already. You just have to kind of tap into it. Like, I always talk to people about really just aligning with your higher self, and that's different for everybody.
You're talking about like aligning to your higher self. That's how do you do that?
Yeah. Uh, so I actually just finished a course on this, and I really love talking about this. So for me, what I realized that I did in 2016 when I locked myself in this room, that's exactly what I was trying to do, is figure out whatever my higher self is, or, in psychology, it's really just your ideal self. And we always want to have some type of overlap. The further they are apart, the less congruent they are, the less, satisfied you are with their life, the less clarity you have, the more stressed you are, just, overall less, well-being. Or
Yo, can you hear me?
I'd ships. Like, do you feel like,
Dang, it keeps cutting out.
yeah, I'm sorry. Is
It's
it
all
going
good.
out?
Yeah. Should we
Dang it.
try to
Okay, my
connect to
phone
your
is on back on.
yeah, can we try to connect
I'm
to
sorry.
your laptop again or your computer?
Yeah, my phone just went back on. So yeah, we're gonna do that.
That email I sent might have gone to
Um,
spam, but I can send it again.
Oh, you know what? I just thought about that. I told you I'm not like tech. Wow, I didn't
It's
even
all
think
good.
about spam. I'm gonna do it on my computer. I just downloaded audio.
There we go.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, we did it.
that's
See, you're getting a little tech savvy every day.
oh, that's so embarrassing. I was like looking for the email. I was like, oh my god, it's not. Okay, I guess I get it. So.
See, it's just sometimes we just gotta look in our junk folders of life and
Yeah.
realize that everything we need is in there. I don't know. Like
I mean, that's a great way of looking at life as well. I mean, I think it applies. We all have a junk folder.
Okay, so I wanna hear more about the higher self, the ideal
Oh,
self.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What I was saying, like, so in the course, what I do is I have people kind of answer certain questions about themselves now. So, like the wheel of life. And so you kind of, okay, so imagine just like a circle, and it's like a pie chart essentially. And so you have different dimensions of your well-being, like your family life, your friends, your social life, hobbies, self-development, career, all that kind of stuff. So you kind of give yourself a rating from 1 to 10 based on how satisfied you are. And so I like that exercise, but I just feel like it's not as specific as I would like for it to be. And it can be helpful just to give you a general idea of how satisfied you are. So what I did was I just came up with a ton of questions for each of them. So like with the relationships, like, whether or not you have a supportive group of friends, if you feel like, comfortable voicing your opinions regardless of who's around, if you feel like you can be yourself around other people, whether or not you understand what practical self-care is, like just a whole bunch of just different questions. And this gives you a really good idea as to kind of where you're starting, and then you can identify whatever the challenges are for you right now, and then you think about where you want to be. So I usually tell people to do like a visualization video, like a guided video, because it's a lot easier. Usually when I ask people like, where do you see yourself in like even a year, most people don't know. And so, especially, I like to project 10 years, and people usually have no idea. And so, what I like to do is just, think about where you see yourself 10 years from now, and imagine you're meeting your, higher self in 10 years. And there are a few ways you can go about that. You could also just think about, let's say it's your 50th birthday, your 100th birthday, whatever. What do you want people to say about you? And then kind of take the steps back to see, okay, what do you have to do in order for that to be true? But just looking at yourself 10 years from now, I always meet myself at a hotel, because my higher self is always at a hotel on meetings, business calls. She's just, I don't know, she's running around getting coffee, doing some business stuff, and then she'll go home in the afternoon. And I just think about like, what does her home look like? What is she wearing? What does she speak like? What kind of words does she use? Who does she interact with every day? Like, literally, just answer every single possible question that you can think about. And that way, you're painting the picture, and really, it'll help with visualizing as well. You're really painting the picture of what your higher self looks like. And then to kind of bridge that gap, what I look at, like for me, my higher self, like I said, she's owning multiple businesses. She has her LLC, and she has a restaurant, she has a spa, she has all of these things that she's doing. So I start thinking, what things can I do today to make that true? Obviously, I'm not going to go apply for grants right now to get a restaurant or loans or anything like that, but I can start building the mindset in order to get there. And so, some things like I want to be fluent in Russian. So I map out 30 minutes of my day to speak Russian, read Russian, whatever it is. And so really it's just that, like making time every day. Like I said, when I was at Kowloon, I had a poster for things I wanted to do every day, things to do every week, things to do every month. And then I think that was essentially it. But really, it was just like, even if it was just reading or exercising, taking a day off, like I used to try to schedule or save enough money to go to a hotel once a month at least. That was like my little self-care bubble. That was my time to escape and my time to just, not worry about business or anything, just enjoy, watch movies, order food and stuff like that. So making sure that you're figuring out, again, it's really just about constructing that bigger picture and then deconstructing it from there. So yeah.
So yeah, that's can you give any examples of how maybe a vision that you've had of your higher self, like like the younger O'Shea, and like how this O'Shea kind of resembles that, or maybe how it's evolved?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I guess the younger version of myself, I definitely always saw myself as an entrepreneur. I remember my very first little hustle, in middle school, I would sell candy. I got these cute little bags, and my dad took me to Walmart, and we would just buy up all the candy. And I didn't have a price. I just, whatever people wanted to pay me is what, like sometimes I would get $20 for a little dum dum. Like, because, kids are crazy with money. And so I always saw myself as definitely doing something, with business, even though I wasn't really thinking of it that way. I just knew I'm a very creative person at heart. I love writing, I love reading, I love painting, I love just creating. And so I felt like I would have to be able to do something that allowed me to do that in my free time. Or if I could somehow merge the two, but I'm not that great with my art, so that's not going to happen. But I guess, looking at myself before all of this stuff really happened with me starting my brand, I definitely didn't see any of this, like the coaching aspects or having multiple blogs or really working with a ton of people online. I did not see any of that. I'm a very like private person. And so I didn't ever think that I would be comfortable like doing workshops, traveling to do speaking engagements, like crazy stuff like that. I never saw any of that coming. But I guess I did still visualize it. I think that for me, it was just like, I don't know. I think it wasn't as clear because I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I knew I wanted, to empower women. I knew I wanted to help students. I knew I wanted to do more and put more out there to help people, but I didn't know how I was going to do it. So I never really had a game plan for doing that. I think I just kind of went with whatever felt right at that moment. I'm not really sure how to answer that question. I think I was always just more clear of the bigger picture and less clear of like the steps to get there before. And then now I'm more clear of like what steps I'm taking, and I'm not really sure exactly where it's going to get me, but I know like in the grand scheme of things, I know I guess just like the big picture things that I want, I guess. That's a really good question. I would honestly have to put more thought into that as far as how my vision has changed. Yeah, I don't want to keep rambling, so.
No, this is beautiful. The rambling is awesome. The one thing that I wanted to point out for people that are listening is that it's so important to just actually like do things. And sometimes it's like doing things before you're ready, because you'll figure it out along the way. Like there's like a trap, like analysis paralysis. Like that's something that
Yeah.
I've like suffered. It's just like, oh, I want to make sure I have all these like tiny little details like figured out before I actually do what I want to do. But when it's just kind of like overthinking things, as opposed to just like taking steps and like taking actions, and then all that's like the real information that will actually help you along.
Yeah. I think the hardest thing for anyone to do is to start. You know, like there were so many times like Savage Resilience, the name came in October, but the idea came like 2 years ago. And one thing that I've realized, and I keep realizing this over and over because it's not an easy thing to, to just get started, especially when you're very uncertain about what's going to happen. But one thing that I like to do is, I don't know if you're familiar with fear setting.
Fear setting.
Yeah, so it's who Tim Ferriss. So pretty much what you want to do is identify whatever your fears are, whatever you feel like is holding you back, whether it's like a limiting belief or like something that's deep rooted that you've always kind of told yourself, or let's say like starting a business. Like that's one thing a lot of people want to do. So you figure out what are your fears with that. Maybe you think if I start a business, I'll lose all of my money. If I start a business, maybe, I won't be able to support my family. Like these things can go wrong. I won't have the funding to open a restaurant or whatever it is. And you kind of write down all of your fears. And then you want to think about if you kind of got rid of all of those fears, if you just acted anyway, what, even if you had like the tiniest bit of success, what, could you reap from that? So if you didn't, if you did start a business and you didn't have to worry about, losing all of your money or whatever it is, the best case scenario for that is what? Maybe you're making an extra $5,000. Maybe you just start a blog first, or maybe you just figure out some side hustles or whatever it is that you're trying to get. So ultimately, you're looking at all of your fears and you're figuring out, okay, how can you reap the benefits if you just start? And then you look at, this is not the exact order because I'm just kind of rambling, but you also want to look at, how can I say this? What's the word for it? Like when you start the worst case scenario. So if you do, lose all of your money, like what are all of the worst possible case scenarios? Like I said, you lose your money, you lose your respect in your community, you lose your job, like whatever, that scenario is. And then you want to figure out what kind of ways can you repair that. So if the worst case scenario were to happen, how could you repair it? How would you prevent it? That's what it is. So you identify the fear, and then you figure out what's the worst case scenario, and then you figure out how could you prevent that worst case scenario. So if you're worried about losing all of your money, you make sure before you start you have a solid amount of money, to go in. Or maybe you don't quit your job right away, or maybe you take up, a second job or something like that. And then you want to figure out the benefits. And then after that, this is my favorite part, is figuring out the cost of inaction. So what are you losing right now by not acting on this? And that's what's really helped me to get started on things, because I figured, if I don't do this right now, like even I did this when I was working in sales, like if I don't show up and commit to, having the best pitch right now with this one person, if I don't do that, the long-term benefits in 10 years, I will never be able to get a single sale, and that was really like a big fear for me, because I went into sales because I was horrible. And I would do so many like cold calls and so many just even warm calls and send emails and all of this, and I could not close for the life of me. And that's what helped me. I just kept thinking, if I don't get this and really work hard to be better at this, then I'm never going to be able to do this. And I'm going to have to outsource, and I don't have the funds to outsource right now. And this is something that I want to be good at if I want to be a successful businesswoman. So that was like, you just want to consider all of the like physical like costs, all of the emotional costs, and just really understand what you're going to lose or miss out on in your life if you don't act. So
Yeah, I think what that does when you figure out, first off, you start finding clarity within yourself by picking out all these fears, and
yeah.
then by actually like addressing them and taking action that you know, is going to empower yourself. Like you said, like if like one is afraid of losing all their money, then like setting up that emergency fund, then that does something like in our programming. It does something in our like subconsciously. It's like first off, like I'm making a decision to overcome my fears, and
Right.
then like second of all, it's like now I'm taking steps towards this vision that I actually like want to be living, instead of having this kind of fear floating or humming in the background.
Hmm.
And yeah, and the yeah, that's pretty much it. I wanted to ask you something else.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the power of your story. That you brought that up, and how just like I think like stories are really like there's something else. You can like teach lessons with stories, and you can like captivate people with stories. So do you mind talking about that a little bit, like how like you
Yeah.
help the women like find their own stories?
Yeah, so I mean, a little bit about like what inspired me was my own story because I never really thought that people would be interested in my life. And for me, with my brand, I like just being authentic in that, and I like just telling people about what my struggles are. Like, I think I just made a post about how I've been dealing with like some trauma and stuff like that. You know, you have ups and downs. Like, I've been able to manifest a really great life for myself. And when I moved to LA initially, I did not know that I was going to be able to afford living in LA and be able to have like my dream apartment and be able to have my car out there and make money from home and do all of these different things. But at any moment in time, those things can kind of like you have ups and downs, you know, you can kind of lose not really access to that. But like for me in October, everything was kind of going great. And then I was triggered, you know, by a trauma. And it just put me in a place where I just felt stuck. And I knew that I wasn't really going to be able to move forward if I continued to stay in that space. And part of me just felt like, what am I teaching people if I can't get out of this? And you kind of feel like a hypocrite a little bit. But then eventually I got back to a place where I understood that I'm a human and anyone that went through what I went through would not be able to just up and recover just like that. So I had to really understand that part of my story first and recognizing, you know, that my story is not ending and my self-love journey is never ending and it's always fluctuating. It's never going to be, oh, I'm happy and I'm just going to be happy forever. Like no, like you have your ups and downs, and I think really accepting that for me was the biggest part. So when I started reaching out to other women, I really wanted them to understand that, you know, when I'm asking you to talk about your self love journey, I'm not saying that you need to have it all together. I'm not saying when was the time that you felt like you truly just mastered it, because no one really masters, you know, any of that. It's like you become good at managing certain things, you become good at being positive, and it becomes habitual, you know, and it becomes a part of who you are. But everybody has bad days, everybody has bad, you know, moments or time or whatever it is, bad experiences. So I just wanted women to understand that whatever their story was, whatever, you know, their experiences were, they can help other women. Like for me, I never thought that sharing my story would even be helpful. And I remember the first time I posted about my whole story with depression, a woman, I don't remember exactly where she was, but she was overseas in Europe, and she emailed me. She sent me this long email about how my story moved her and it inspired her to want to get out of her marriage that was toxic and just all of this stuff. And I was like, I cried. And still to this day, when people message me about stuff, like it brings me to tears because you never think that my, you know, little story can help someone or encourage someone. And that's what I want other women to feel. I want them to know that just because they think, you know, oh no, like that's just a part of life, that's just what I've been through and whatever. No, like you can now make an imprint on somebody else's life, and that's empowering and that's encouraging. And that's what motivates me, you know, to keep going and to keep, you know, finding other women like that. So I just feel like with this whole self empowerment and women's empowerment movement, I want people to go beyond just the positive quotes and the, you know, talking about all of these buzzwords. I want people to understand that your story is what really shapes this. Like, you don't have to be an influencer, you don't have to start a coaching practice, you don't have to do any of that. Just share your story. Like, you can literally help people by just doing that. And you learn more about yourself too. So,
Yeah, something happens when you like we have the experience kind of like all up in our heads and like in our bodies and our emotions. And it's just something happens when we process it and maybe just like put it onto paper or just like
Yeah.
speak it out. It because we, like you said, like we learn about ourselves. It brings a new kind of clarity to it, and then also like a new perspective just by like voicing it. It's kind of like, oh wait, that like that kind of sounds like not as bad as I thought it did or as it felt,
Right.
or maybe like, oh, now I can like see this other part that I did never really had awareness to before. The something that the were you talking about like seeing your higher self like in like 10 years or like when you're like 50 or 100 or whatever. Have you ever done where you see your younger self?
Yeah, so honestly, I do this a lot because I feel like when I was younger, it's not like I lacked love or anything like that. Like my parents were separated, but I was still seeing both of them. They were busy because, they worked, but it wasn't like I was neglected, emotionally or, anything like that. I just feel like I felt like as a child, I was very wise and I asked a lot of questions. And like I started studying, like looking into like Buddhism when I was in like sixth or seventh grade, and it just
Whoa.
made me have even more questions. And I was just confused about everything, and I wasn't getting those answers. And so because of that, I felt like I just questioned everything, and I questioned so many things to the point where I felt insecure about my place in life. And so oftentimes I do like to like when I do you know, usually not when I'm visualizing, but when I'm writing, like I'll write to my future self and I'll write to my present self, but I don't know where it is. I was just showing someone, I have like cards and like little envelopes, and I write like little letters to myself. And so I'll write letters to my past self and especially to my child version because I think of, when I was a child and when I was so smiling and happy and all of this and all of the stuff I was fighting that, was just ridiculous for a child to deal with. I, you know, I don't like apologize, to her anymore. I kind of just try to help her understand. And it's crazy to, I guess, to say it out loud, but it's like when I write to my, younger self, I'm just writing, about how I'm forgiving her, for not knowing. And it's okay that she didn't know, she didn't have the answers and that, she took a while to find herself, but that, she's grateful because look at her now. And I remember at Cal Lu actually with the SSS Center, this happened when I first went back after losing my scholarship. Um, they had me do something similar and writing back to myself at the beginning of the year. And that was really helpful too. And I remember she, I got that letter my senior year and it just made me cry because it's like the things that I've accomplished, the things that I overcame, you don't really think about that stuff unless you're forcing yourself to really go back in time. So I think that's really important to, kind of talk to your inner child as often as you can.
Yeah, I got an interesting story for you. There's so I was standing in our bathroom in like the house that I grew up in, and I just had like this weird like interesting experience where I'm looking at this mirror that I've like grown up with, and I had like a flashback of when I was looking at this same mirror, but just like really young, like probably like 5 or 6 or something.
Wow.
And it was like really interesting because I like saw the little kid, but then I also have like the adult experience, and I just started like I just felt like it coming out of me, just telling my little me everything that I felt like he needed to hear, that I needed to hear at that young age, or like just like what to. I don't know. It was a really like I think like visceral is the right word. It's just like really like a trippy experience,
Yeah.
and it like felt so good afterwards. It was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know how much I needed that. And that's I don't know, that's just like something like really like it seems so simple, but it makes like a really huge impact that like anybody can do. Just kind of think about where you were at a young age and start telling that younger self in you what you feel like he or she needed to hear. And then it's that you're literally like empowering yourself with your own intention.
Yeah, that's
Just
really beautiful though.
thanks.
Honestly, like I've definitely had those little kind of flashback moments myself. I remember because, like I said, this is the room that I kind of retreated to after I lost my scholarship. And when I came back here, like last December, it was a very crazy experience because that was like the first time that I've been here that I really thought about what I experienced then and like where I was then. And it was crazy because it's like I think about that time, I can still picture myself like crying and like just horribly, like I could not sleep. I had like insomnia really bad. I was having like just horrible thoughts. And just the turnaround is like now that I can come into this place, like I have my little like altar over there. I've just got it's a completely different, energy here. And every time I walk into this room, I'm grateful for it. And I feel it every single time I walk into it. And it's like, that's a really crazy experience. And I feel like the more you kind of, are in tune with that and realizing the growth, like it just makes you even more proud and even more, like for me, it's really about my faith. I have so much faith, and not just in anything, like an outer source, but I have so much faith in my ability to like overcome anything now that it's just like anything can come at me, and I'm still like though I know it's going to be hard, I know that I'm going to get through it. And like that's really what Savage Resilience was about too, because I felt like when I was doing my senior exit interviews, they were asking me like, what am I most proud of? And honestly, I just said my resilience, because that is one thing that I work on all the time, because I know no matter what happens to me, my ability to bounce back and get back to myself, it may take some time, but I know it's going to happen. And like that's very important to me.
I got a funny story about resilience. So one of the I think like the first night that I smoked weed, I had a panic attack. And I was like, I remember like it was like really late at night and I'm in my room and I all of a sudden like I just felt like I couldn't breathe. So I like put on my clothes and I go to my dad's room and I'm like, Dad, you have to take me to the hospital, which I don't know how I was able to talk if I thought I couldn't breathe. So so he's like, what's going on? What happened? And he's like just like kind of like half awake, like super chill. And I'm like, I smoked some weed and now like I can't breathe. And he just kind of like, oh, you're fine. Like it's just the stuff. Go back to your room.
Aw.
And in my head, I'm just like, your firstborn son is dying in front of you, and you're just telling me to go back to bed. But
Right.
anyway, like, but after that,
Uh-huh.
I feel like invincible. It's like I faced death. Like I've looked death in the face, and I overcame it. And now, like whenever I feel like I don't know. I kind of get that kind of anxiety or whatever it
Yeah.
is. It's just like nah. Like I've survived before.
Yeah,
Like
it's like, yeah, like I've already been there, done that. Honestly, I totally can relate to that. Because even though, obviously you weren't gonna die, that feeling is real. Like that feeling is real. Like I've had 3 surgeries in total. 2 years ago, I had surgery in the same area that I had surgery for last year.
hmm.
Literally same month, around the same exact time. Let's talk about that. I'm trying to figure out that meaning too, because I know it means something. But
Yeah,
I had
within the
surgery
same time.
last time, the exact same, like within 5 days of each other each time.
Mm.
And last year when I had the surgery, it was like the craziest spiritual experience, because I honestly went in, I was meditating before because my surgery was like delayed 3 hours. I was so like, was in so much pain, but I didn't take any medication. I just meditated for like days. I just meditated even before and after. But during, I remember I was just sitting there meditating, and my doctor was looking at me like I was crazy because I kept refusing them, like the pain meds and all that. And I was just like, I'm okay, I'm okay. And I just kept telling myself, like, if this is your time, then this is your time. Like, I was so content with that. And not even, it was crazy because there used to be a time in my life where I would think that, and it was more suicidal. It was more like, this is your time, like blah blah blah. But this was more, if this is your time, like you've done so much, you are happy, you are content. Like look at how much you've done for yourself. It was just like you know, there was no more fear associated with the pain or with anything, and it was just like I just felt peace. I felt true peace. And then, of course, when I woke up, I felt even more gratitude. But I remember a few days after my surgery, I mean, I'm not, the last time I had this surgery, I couldn't walk for like a month before.
Oh
I was in
dang.
so much pain. This time, 3 days later, I went on a hike for like 2 hours.
Heck yeah.
And I went to like self-realization fellowship, and I was
Yeah.
just meditating for like an hour. So watching the swans, I was just like, oh my God, like this is just, it just felt crazy. And now it's just like anything. Like, I mean, it's not really the same thing, but it's just like whenever I have that kind of anxiety or that like feeling, I can just go back home to my place and I can feel that peace like instantly now. And like it takes a
Mm.
lot of practice, but I think that was more of a exaggerated thing based off of what you were saying. But it's like learning how to come home to yourself and like really calm yourself down and achieve your own kind of peace. That's really important.
Yeah, I feel like the just like the way that you explain it, the story that you're telling us is like how it happened around the same time. It's supposed to, I think it's like an example of how resilience has grown
Yeah,
because it was like a similar spot, a similar like time of the year, and they just like the contrast that you gave where before you couldn't walk a month and then the next time you were taking a hike, and then like how that memory is kind of anchored into the self-realization fellowship and like the
yeah.
peace associated with that. So it just seems like it's supposed to be like a good example. At least that's what I'm getting from it.
Yeah, like honestly, I feel like I mean there's some like meaning there. And I know spiritually there probably is more of a I don't know that much about the universe to know why it happened the same month and all of that. But I do think that, you know, it's something that I'm trying to explore more. But I do agree that, you know, these were things that were meant to happen because just looking at the progression, like when I had my first surgery, I was like terrified. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's it says we only have like 10 minutes. I don't mind
Oh,
like,
I forgot they have like the little time thing.
yeah, I think it was because we had your other on your
Yeah.
phone. I mean, we can start a new meeting if you wanted to finish up this story,
Um, what
or
was
do
I
you want?
saying?
Oh, I can't remember.
Um, oh, I was just saying, so the first surgery that I had, I was just really terrified. And I remember I needed my mother there. And then the second surgery, I was a little bit more calm, but still anxious. And then the third one, it's just like the overall progression in my mindset and my like faith and my ability to know that things are going to be okay. It all happened in like, you know, times in my life where I was making some type of transition. And I feel like it really just forced me to grow.
Yeah, that's important to feel that kind of like sometimes we need that pressure to get to where our higher self wants us to go, kind of
Yeah.
thing. There we go.
Awesome.
Heck yeah.
Okay.
So just a cool way to empower myself right now is like, even though we've been experiencing all these like technical difficulties and I have like a not so tech savvy person, it's like we're still doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
I mean, I am proud of myself. I was just giving myself a little crap for looking at that email because I was like, wow, she's sitting there in spam.
I'm interested to hear about what you got going on with your altar. Like, what do you have?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you mind sharing
Um,
that?
let's see. So I am really into anointing oils.
Yeah.
So I used to create some myself, but then I just kind of got a little lazy. And I felt like, honestly, even if I buy the oils, as long as I kind of, you know, it's really about the intentions, just like with crystals. And so I feel like as long as I'm still putting my own energy into it, then I should be okay. But the source that I get it from, I do trust them. They're a trusting company. Um, so anyway, besides like the voodoo witchcraft stuff. So I have a lot of anointing oils. Part of it is because, you know, like as women, we kind of like things like a product for everything. Like if there were a cream specifically just for our toes, we would buy it just because it's like it's, you know, I don't know why we're like that. So having an oil for like specific things just feels good. But then the other part of it is, you know, I really do believe in the law of attraction. And for me, everything has always kind of worked in my favor whenever I'm actively manifesting. So I have my notebook. I actually have this one. So this is my notebook that's for like what's the word? Like all of my notes. So I have like from like things that I'm trying to learn, like whether I'm watching a YouTube video or something, like I just take all my notes in there. And then I have a pink notebook over there. That's for like my 55 by 5 stuff whenever I'm doing like that specific journaling.
Do you mind
And then I have,
explaining that real quick for
oh
anybody that
yeah.
may not know?
So 55 by 5, let's see if I can explain this correctly. So essentially, you want to figure out whatever it is that you're trying to manifest, whatever you want, and kind of put it into like an affirmative statement. Like I mean, there are different ways to do it. Some people do it like I am, or I will have this, or I'm happy and grateful that I have already done this, or that I will do this. But just a quick one, like I am happy and grateful that, I manifested a new car. And obviously you would want to be more specific about what kind of make and model, all that stuff. But you would write it down, write that statement down, the shorter the better, because your hand will get tired. 55 times for 5 days in a row. Or you can do 5 by 55 and write it 5 times for 55 days in a row. I'm not that disciplined. I will forget. So I just prefer to do 55 by 5. Some people do 33 by 3. I really don't think that it matters so much which one you use. It's really just about whether or not you actually believe and you can actually get it ingrained in your mind, so that way it feels like it's a possibility, and then just letting go after that. So I actually just finished one with the full moon that we just had. So that's over there.
Wait, what do you mean with the full moon?
So I just started at the full moon. I just started my
Oh,
55 by 5, yeah, because I think it was a Monday. And so I just, I don't know, I was just feeling really good. I was coming up with a ton of different ideas. So I just
yeah.
decided to do it. Besides my oils, I have some candles. Some are manifesting, some are just for the scent. I have my crystals, of course. I have some like sprays that I've created, like saging sprays. I have my sage. I have my vitamins over there too, just so I don't forget. And
Gotta bless the vitamins.
yeah. Oh, another thing, I have like my all my credit cards and stuff over there. And then I also keep my business cards there as well. So I keep like any little thing that can kind of remind me of, like any kind of like momentum, I guess. So I always tell people to pick an item that kind of represents whatever they're trying to manifest. And so I have my business cards, I have receipts, like bank statements, I have gift cards. Like whenever I get sad or something, I'll usually go to like CVS and buy like a Bloomingdale's gift card. Even if it's just $10, I'll just keep buying them, and I just keep them over there because I love shopping at Bloomingdale's and I'd like to be able to do it more. I have like my luxury stuff, like everything that I feel like I'm trying to manifest. I have pictures. Just like it's
Yeah.
like a little sanctuary, like for myself as well. But
I have a quick question. Like, what's the significance of picking an item that represents what you want to manifest?
yeah, for me, I just felt like it was a really good reminder. Like when I started doing it, it's a really good reminder that you can kind of have whatever it is that you're trying to manifest. It's just like with having a vision board and looking at it every day. But in this is like you have something, like I have things that I physically carry around with me, and it's just like I'm constantly being reminded that this is already, something that I'm gonna have. Like for me, one thing that I used to do, like I actually manifested a few years ago an Equinox membership, and I had always wanted to work, go to Equinox, and just it was just, it's like a beautiful little place. But really, I wanted to work with a trainer to help heal my knee, because I have arthritis and like those little issues. And so I started going there, and I would just go in like the little Earth Cafe or Earth Bar, and I would just get their smoothies. Like I would just go and I would just keep those receipts. And every time that I went there, or I would buy something from the gift shop, or I would, have the manager's card, and I would keep those things with me. And I would always just, if I left the house, as if I could have just been going down the street to Equinox. And I just felt it, even though I didn't actually go, it felt like it was something that I could do if I decided to. And eventually I did. I remember after my second surgery, was when I got like the 20% off, and then I didn't have to pay the initiation fee, and then all this stuff. And then because of my surgery, I got like, I don't know, I saved something for like the month after. So it all worked out. So I
Yeah.
think that, just really keeping that in mind, like it really helps you to keep in mind whatever your goal is. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you meditate with crystals?
So I mean, usually I guess I never really thought of it that way. I do when I meditate, I don't usually have my crystals like with me, unless I'm doing like a specific kind of manifestation. I do use my rose quartz, if anything, when I meditate. That's usually when I'm doing like something like introspective meditation, when I'm trying to figure out more stuff about myself, or when I'm trying to like figure out, like, if I'm asking myself a question and I'm trying to get the answer, or I just feel lost or something like that. I do that to feel more connected to myself. I have used some crystals and meditated with them for a while for gifts for people, just to like send energy. I've been getting more into like energy work and learning how to send energy through objects and all of that. But usually my crystals just kind of stay where they are unless I'm like cleansing them or charging them or something like that. But they're always near me, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm still like trying to figure out how I stand and like what I believe about crystals, because I definitely feel like when we put a certain association to an object, like then that it holds that kind of power and that intention, just because like the way we anchor it in our lives. So like if we say like I don't know, like a rose quartz means something to us and it'll help me with this, just by having that thought, you're already like attracting that to you.
I
And
agree.
yeah, but I don't know how I feel like if a crystal can like hold like a certain kind of energy and like have that same effect for everybody. I don't know if it's like more mental, or maybe it's just like both. Maybe in order to tap into it, you need to be open to the idea of it. I'm still
I
like
think
wrapping my
that's
head
why it's
around.
so popular, is because there's so much unknown. Because it's
Mm,
just like with the law of attraction, you really don't know. Like, am I not in the right mindset for this to not work? I mean, for this to work, or is it just those people really believe it and that's why it works? And it's just, I think it's more of the latter, or I don't remember. Actually, I don't remember the order you said it, but I think that it's more of just whatever your intentions are, whatever you want it to mean, because I think the same can be true for any object. We all have objects in our life that hold some type of meaning or represent something, and it makes us feel a certain way, and it, inherently it kind of generates a certain kind of energy within us, and it kind of helps us to tap, or it affects our subconscious mind regardless, regarding our beliefs about anything. So I think crystals have just been used for such a long time that people are kind of, accustomed to using them to generate a certain kind of energy, or to cultivate this kind of energy for themselves. But I think I mean, like I said, nothing works without your intention. So, I mean, if you do something with the crystal versus without a crystal, I don't think, it's going to change whether or not something actually happens to you. I just feel like it's about your intention, your belief, and the amount of magnetic like energy that you put out there. And they're, I mean, it doesn't hurt that they're very pretty, they're nice to look at. Cause like I feel you. Like I've never, I'm not like a spiritual like worker. Like I don't have crystals because I think this crystal is going to do this. I just feel like, I am a very, what's the word? I don't want to say sentimental, but I like symbols. And I like things that kind of represent stuff, just like having like my receipts or whatever. So I feel like it's just, something like that. I think it's based off of whatever it means to you, and that's why it either works or doesn't work or whatever.
yeah, just like talking about how pretty they are. Something that Eckhart Tolle said, the dude that wrote The Power of Now,
Yeah.
in another book, he said that there's like an enlightened form of everything, and like an enlightened form of a plant is a flower when it's blooming, and the enlightened form of earth are crystals, or is a crystal.
Hmm.
So that's just something that you like
Yeah, that's
resonated with.
a wonderful way of thinking about that too. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like there's so much that we don't really know about it, but I just feel like I am open to certain things because there's so much that we don't know, so no one can tell me one way or another. It's all just about kind of whatever I believe. And I feel like it doesn't hurt, like I always tell people with affirmations, people are like, well, what if it doesn't work? Like, I'm not going to sit there and say that I'm confident if I'm not. And it's like, is it going to hurt you to sit there and say that you're confident? Like, how is it hurting you to do that? It's hurting you by not doing it. It's not going to hurt you at all by sitting there and saying, I believe that I can be confident, or I believe in my ability to do this, or whatever it is. So, I mean, having the crystals won't hurt. So it's like, whether or not you believe it initially, I feel like just opening yourself up to it and building your own relationship with it, what's the worst that can happen? Unless
Yeah,
you
that's
think it's like witchcraft or something, then maybe you think it's gonna explode. I don't know.
explode. That's the yeah, that's that cost of inaction that you're talking about. Like,
Yeah.
what's it gonna hurt? Like, it'll hurt you more by not doing it. Then there was something that, oh man, made me forget my thought.
I'm sorry.
Whatever. It'll come back if it wants to.
Yeah,
Uh,
I hope so. Shoot, I feel like I was gonna say something. Shoot.
by the way, I'm really enjoying this conversation. Like, it's pretty
Yeah,
freaking awesome.
me too. Honestly, like I don't talk about myself a lot. Like, usually when I'm doing workshops and stuff, I'm just giving people, more advice and stuff like that. People don't usually ask me questions. So I'm appreciating this.
Oh,
'Cause it's
awesome.
really helping me to kind of formulate my own little thoughts too and get things.
Great. And you just reminded me, like, talking about how, like, just trying out all these different kinds of symbols. Like,
Yeah.
it's like beneficial, and it's like super, it's like fun too to just experiment with things, and to kind of like be adventurous with yourself, and like trying something that maybe you were not like accustomed to, and like getting out of your comfort zone. Like, getting out of your comfort zone is a lot of self-love. So I think, like, even if like you find a crystal and maybe it's like not your thing, just by you like making the effort to want to improve your life in a certain way, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, like seeing what it is, like I think that is definitely, like, those are seeds that are being planted that like reap harvests later.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I think that, yeah, part of my growth was really just being open to different things too. Like, I remember you sent me this woman, she was having a Reiki session or something. Remember that post you sent me?
I don't know, I kind of want to see it right now.
You sent it on Instagram,
Yeah.
and this was like a few months ago. I think this was in December. I want to say it was in December. And I don't think that I ever really said anything, but I wanted to thank you for sending me that.
Oh, you're
Because
welcome.
the timing was just crazy. So when you sent it to me, I think I was working. I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but this was when I was first starting to think about going to see someone for me being triggered. And I remember I got her masterclass, or I went to her session. And in that, I learned, it was just like an hour, but I learned so much about what had truly been bothering me. And I would love to learn more about Reiki because it was very, very nice. But one thing that I do like to do, because I took the Alexandria Technique courses at Kalu, and I learned a lot about how to really work with my body and meditate and understand how to get like the effects that I wanted, energy wise. And we did a guided meditation, and I just remember we did a chakra one, and I always known that I had some work to do with like my sacral chakra and all of that, because that, is where we really hold a lot of our emotions, and where trauma can kind of, just cling on there. And so for me, that was where I found a lot of my uh, emotional pain, I guess. And after going to her session was when I remember I went to see Gloria, the woman I was speaking with, the psychologist, the next day. And that was my second session with her. But the first session, I just kind of sat there for like 30, 40 minutes without really saying anything. So I was just crying, and I couldn't really get much of anything out. And I just kind of briefly told her some things that had happened. And after this session, I just was able to like get it all off my chest and just tell her, because I knew that that was going to be therapeutic for me. And so I do want to say thank you for that, because if I didn't go to this woman saying, I don't know if I would have felt encouraged to do that. And it was literally just because you sent me her post and introduced me to her. So that was really, really like amazing.
Wow. Like, see, I was, that's an example of like a seed that is planted and it's like
Yeah.
bearing fruit. And I, you know what I mean? That wasn't even Like I didn't like I don't know, that's pretty freaking awesome. Thanks for sharing
Yeah, like I know my
that.
friend's been sending it like, oh, like maybe she'll need this transformation. It happened.
Wow, that's something else. Like it's
Yeah,
that, but that timing that you mentioned, it makes
yeah,
it so much more significant when like the timing seems to be perfect. It's like okay, like something else is like okay, I think I need to like do something, or you know what I mean? That's
yeah. That was my little push to really just, get a hold of it. Because if I didn't do the whole fear setting exercise because I was in such a crazy place. But thinking about it, like had I not gone to see Gloria, had I not actually taken the steps to heal, this is the kind of thing I would have held on for years, and I did my
wow.
research because I'm extremely analytical. So I wanted to know if I went to therapy, would it actually help? And so I looked at all the research and I saw, I mean, the numbers were kind of scary because most of the women that had experienced those things still held on to it for years after. And it's not the kind of thing you ever really just let go of, but getting help and going to therapy does help. The numbers is not like miraculous, but it does make a difference. And I felt like compared to nothing at all and being kind of stagnant for months, I just needed something. So it was a really good little push, like a tiny little push, but it worked because it definitely got, once I started talking about it, it became a little bit easier. And it helped me figure out what was actually bothering me and all that stuff. So,
Yeah, it's really it's trippy how like certain kinds of emotions can attach to like certain parts of our bodies.
oh,
Like I
yeah.
felt like a lot of like pain and tightness in my hips for like a certain part of my life. And it's like a physical journey and like an emotional and spiritual one because it's like I'll set an intention before like doing like stretching my hip or like doing a yoga session. It's like okay, like I'm doing this to like heal my body because I love myself, and also to just let go of whatever may be there, maybe something that I'm maybe not
Right.
hold realize I'm holding on to, or things that I know I'm holding on to. It's like this is the like ritual and the action that I'm doing to just let it go and to like bring more space into myself. Because like when you let go of things and you make more space, you allow like better things to flow.
Right.
So
That's a great
that's
way to say it. Yeah.
yeah, and that happens like in both like in our bodies but also like in the space that we dwell in. Like one thing that I like really love doing is just like getting rid of things because I know that when I don't know, like let's say like my I have like super old shoes. I had
Mhm.
like a pair of really old shoes that were all tattered and stuff, and I was like attached to them because they were like pretty cool, but I knew that I needed to like let it go. So I threw them away. And then like literally probably an hour or two after that, my dad, he comes to me, he's with two pairs of shoes. He's like, "Here, I don't want these anymore. I never really wore them." And I'm like, "What the
What?
heck?" Like so like
Wow.
things like that happen when you start like letting go of the all the stuff that no longer serves you. It's
Yeah,
you make space for like better things to come.
that's a really great example. You've got a lot of little, like, examples. That's awesome.
Things. Yeah, I'm
And,
full
like,
of
I love that
stories.
that turnaround was so, like, I always like quick turnaround stories because I feel like they're just, it really helps to prove it to you, that, like, this does work, and it's not always, like a 2-hour 1 to 2-hour turnaround, but, like, that is still proof. Like, it just shows you how powerful it is to just let go, detach from certain things, certain emotions, and certain physical things in our life, and how quickly it just gave you a new opportunity, new pairs of shoes. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of meaning in that small example.
Yeah.
I think like the never mind. I just had a brain fart. I don't know.
Yeah, that's been me the past, like, 4 days.
Oh, good. We're like brain farting each other. What are some like positive affirmations that you tell yourself? Are you into like affirmations?
I am. So one of my favorite ones is that I can easily feel the emotions generated or easily feel the emotions associated with achieving my goals. I tell that one to myself every day because I feel like for achieving, I have such really large goals, and some of them are so ambitious that it just feels like I know it's going to be a while before I get there. But one thing with visualization is it does not work unless you really feel like it's already yours. And so one of my affirmations is that I can easily feel the emotions associated with it. And in that, when I visualize, it's just my way of reminding myself to focus on the emotions and focus on how my body feels and how my body is reacting. Like when I see money getting into my account, like how does that make me feel? And like honestly, it I think it does really make a difference. And there are a few reasons, I guess more than a few. There are a lot of reasons why affirmations work. But one thing that I like about using affirmations, especially with people that are new to like the law of attraction, is that I always tell people there's definitely some proof to what you're saying in some way, even if it's like the tiniest little like piece of evidence. And so what I have people do and what I do is instead of just creating affirmations, I always create like a little, I don't really have a word for it, but just any kind of proof that I can. So whether it's a picture, if it's a receipt, that's why I like to keep that kind of stuff too. If it's like a picture of myself when after I did achieve a goal, when I was doing a speaking engagement or a worksheet from, my first workshop or something like that, things that represent, because like I said, I like symbols, but things that represent me achieving my goals, things that represent whatever kind of affirmation I'm trying to, you know, get myself to really truly believe, anything that represents that, that's my way of proving to myself it is possible. It may not feel that way all the time, but it's possible. And like when I used to struggle with my confidence or struggle with like my body image and things like that, I would always have to find a reason to believe that this is true, even if I wasn't 100% comfortable with my entire body, or I didn't 100% like my face. I knew that I liked my eyes. I knew that I liked my feet, and that was a start for me. And really, and then just finding more and more reasons to kind of be more inclusive in that whole, generality of just liking my body and stuff like that. So I think they really challenge you to, be positive and to have, a good, healthy state of mind. I mean, it's kind of borderline like false positivity, because I feel like a lot of people don't know how to say affirmations and make them feel like ring true for themselves. And that's why I say it's important to align with your higher self every day. Like for me, when I do that, I may not be living my best life every single day, but I'm aligned with my higher self, meaning I'm doing at least one thing every day that my higher self would be doing. That's all that matters to me, because now I'm improving on myself every single day. That's your proof that you can get better. That's your proof that you can change your life. That's all the proof that you need. Just doing one thing to do better than yesterday. That's all the proof that you need. So I think that's why affirmations work. And the more you practice, the more you say them, the more they just start to feel like you're right. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard of a book called Think and Grow Rich?
Yes. I'm also torn apart. I need to get a new copy.
Yeah, same. That's so there's an exercise in there that, I mean, throughout the book actually it talks about how do you feel after you reach your goal, like something to the effect of like what does it feel like when you wake up that day, and
Right.
that's like the day that you become a millionaire or whatever it is. And
Mhm.
so I really like sat in that and like meditated and like marinated in that situation and that feeling and that visualization. And what I got back from that was like a just like a it was like excitement, but like more peace. It was like a peaceful excitement. And then but like the main emotion was that with that was gratitude. Like I was so freaking grateful. And that I think like just like definitely planted a seed in like who I wanted to become, which is like now I call myself like Omar the Grateful. So this like just whatever, like that's where I see that little puzzle piece. Are you into like number synchronicities?
Um, okay. So am I into it? Yes. Do I know what all of it means? No. But
Okay, wait, I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. Just
oh,
because
go
right
ahead.
now the on my computer
Yeah.
it's 100%, and it's 1 o'clock, so it's 100 100 as like we talk about this. Okay, anyways, continue.
That's so cool. Actually, okay, so ever since I think it's like April 5th. So ever since I started, it was just after I came back here to Maryland. And I really just started figuring out what I want to do like during this self-isolation time, because I have so many different goals and things that I want to do with my business. So after I kind of clarified everything, uh, I've been just kind of seeing like it's crazy because I have screenshots in my phone, and every single time it happens, I like almost burst into tears because I'm turned into like, I don't want to say a crybaby, but I kind of have. Like I never used to cry about all this like kind of stuff, but it's just like I feel like I can literally feel how much closer I'm getting to achieving my like next big goal, and it's just like the best feeling in the world. And so this was actually the first time, I don't know if you can see it, but it's
Yeah.
222. And I've been taking pictures every single time. And I did a little tally just last night when I updated it on the number of times that I've seen each of the numbers and which ones were the most prevalent. And for me, it was 222.
Okay.
And I don't know what any of it means right now. I know when it all kind of comes into fruition, I will have a better idea. But I know that certain numbers, are like kind of your reminders to kind of either that you're heading on the right track or maybe you need to switch gears. Like I don't remember which one, but I looked it up. Like I think I was eating a root beer float the other night. And
That's
I
right.
was on, I don't know if I was on my phone or my computer, but I was working and I saw whatever number it was, and it just seemed like it, like I needed to just know what it meant. And I looked it up, and it just said something about like my health and like my habits, with like my unhealthy habits and stuff like that. And I was just thinking about it.
Whoa.
Like, you know what? I really haven't been taking, care of my body like I usually do. I usually wake up and I'm in my room working like all day until it's like 11 o'clock at night. And then I go try to eat something. And then I get back to work and then I fall asleep and I do the same thing. And I was like, what the heck? How did I not realize that I was like falling into this trap of like not taking care of myself? And that was like my little thing. I didn't know really what it meant until I looked it up, but it really did make me think, I'm really not doing a good job at, making sure I'm drinking enough water and stuff like that. Here I am eating a root beer float and I haven't even had dinner. So, but anyway, that was a long winded answer, but I don't really know that much about like, all of that. I think I talked to you a little bit about like 1111 and stuff like that, but as far as what it truly all means, I don't really know. Again, for me, it's more just symbolism because I don't know enough yet, but
It's really like, interesting to see how like you're so analytical, like that like obsession with numbers, telling all of
oh
the
yeah, because I had to like, well, for me, because I feel like when this usually happens in my life, because they're like little themes, it's like the universe giving you signs, and I feel like when I stay on top of it, that's when it just feels more and more. It's like it's like that proof. It's just like the validation that this is about to come for you. This is about to happen. Like ever since I started really, getting more in tune with this and not being lazy with it and focusing on doing my like law of attraction rituals every day. Like, I mean, I don't wake up every single day to new sales, but I have made more money in the last 2 weeks than I have in the last 2 months,
heck
just
yeah.
because I actually started to take it seriously and really believe it. I was going through a lot of like, stuff before, and doing it without truly believing it, it's like you're wasting your time. I mean, it's good practice, but it's just like if I don't truly believe that I'm worthy of doing all this stuff, then it's not going to come to me. And so now I feel like I'm at such peace where I feel like I'm finally reaping the benefits of achieving my goals. Not even just the money, but like the interviews. Like when I first launched Self Honeymoon, I didn't really think a lot of women would be interested because there's really no benefit to them, other than responding to some questions. But and some people did say, I don't want to do it because it's not going to help me or my brand. And, that it is what it is. But I didn't think I was going to get a lot of people interested. And I got over 100 people that, like women that wanted to interview and just share their stories. So I was just like, I never would have thought that would have happened. So just, really, I don't know how in tune I am with, all of that. But I do know that it's doing something. It's working in some way, or at least it's making me feel that way, for which, it just makes me feel grateful. And I love that name. I mean, Omar the Grateful is just like, to put that in your identity is something really beautiful. I think gratitude is one of the most important things. That's even more important than visualization, affirmations, and all of that. like truly being grateful for where you are, what you've had before, what you know is to come, like all of that.
Yeah, it's really powerful to ground yourself in gratitude. Like I want to share a little bit of my story with you.
Yeah.
Is like I used to be like super depressed and just like I like didn't want to live anymore. And I eventually like reached a point where I was just like tired of being tired. I was like tired of feeling like super depressed and just super fatigued and lethargic and crap like that. So then I remember like two things kind of happened that were like the first like steps that helped me. So first off, I made the decision that I wanted to get better. And I think that was really important because once you make a decision, then all of a sudden your brain starts seeing things that it didn't see before. Your awareness has grown and then doors start to open that like you don't know if they're there or if they just kind of magically appeared, but here they are and you got to take the now you made the decision and then you take like the step to actually go through the door. So the what remember I looked up Les Brown. He's a motivational speaker,
Yeah.
and I think I specifically searched like Les Brown depression, and I listened to that, and it was just so like that's like it started to empower me and it like fired me up. I was like, oh my gosh, like now like I know that like there's more to like live for. Then I know that I can improve my life. And then the other thing that happened was I watched the movie The Secret. Like there's like the book and the movie about the law of attraction. So I
Yeah.
watched that on Netflix, I think, and that made me take a step back and think about, okay, so if your thoughts create your reality, it makes total sense that this is happening to me right now, because what have I been thinking the past year, the past few years, like just all this like disempowering things and like reaffirming all these limiting beliefs like, oh, I'm not good enough or I don't deserve this or whatever it is. And that so that's like the beginning of what like propelled me to just like start learning about how to develop myself. And it really like opened me up to a lot of things that it's kind of like that pressure that we were talking about earlier, like like just like that little bit of pressure, that little push, and then all of a sudden like it's like this huge thing that it's like, wow, I built this, like I made this.
Yeah.
Forgot exactly where I was going with that, but yeah, that's a little bit of my story.
That's pretty incredible. I mean, I like, when people are able to make that decision. I think that's one of the most powerful things that you said is that when you are going through something like that, making that decision to commit is the most important step. Like, I remember I was reading the book Pivot like a month ago, and he was talking about how no one, like all the people that are doing the things that you want and have the life that you want and all of that, they're not extraordinary. They are not, better than you. They're not, like they still have the same problems, the same stress, the same car payments, the same, all of that, the same bad relationship with their father, their parents, or whatever. But one thing that sets them apart is that they decided to change their life and they committed to it. That's the real, like that's the sweetness in it. Like making that decision involves committing to it. And I think a lot of people, we kind of choose our comfort because it's just easier sometimes. And it is very hard to change, especially to force that change upon yourself, especially when you know that you're going to make yourself uncomfortable and you know that you're going to learn some stuff that you don't like. And you're going to realize that you're not as happy as you thought, or you're not as smart as you thought, or as advanced as you thought, or whatever it is. But owning that and accepting that and really just accepting yourself is really important. So I think, what you said is, you get access to this information and you open yourself up to different resources. And now you realize like you can create a whole new reality. That's so powerful. Like it's so nice. It's a really, really great thing. And I'm glad that you were able to take, away from that you can create your own reality and look at what you're doing now. I mean, this is pretty incredible. Like, I just feel like there aren't a lot of people that are channeling, a lot of it into something positive and something that's good for people and not just about, a quick benefit. And like, that's why I said, like, I don't really care about the whole coaching thing because I never thought of myself as a coach and I still don't. Like, I use it because it's good for buzzwords, but I'm an accountability partner. I just like to push people out of their comfort zones and hold their hand along the way until they say let go. And I mean, it's incredible. And so I know this is like my little interview, but can I ask you a question?
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to know, like, what kind of more so inspired you to start this whole podcast series?
Oh, so there's a couple of reasons. So
Mhm.
first off, like I just had the idea in the back of my mind for like so many years, just like, oh, like it'd be pretty cool to make a podcast. And I've like made a podcast with our band Plan Your Escape. Like we've recorded a couple. So, but I wanted to do like my own and just kind of see what happened and like talk to like interesting people. So then, but like what really like was like the push for me is like the work that I do. I actually edit these Zoom calls. Like I edit Zoom calls for money, basically, and and the I just like saw it. I was like, oh, like I could totally like do this. Like I could totally be like, this is the way I can make my podcast kind of thing, and
Right.
I just started to like take action. Like I didn't really know what I was doing, like or what like I was just like that's okay, like I'll figure it out as I go along. I was just like it's basically like a big experiment is what I like to think about it. It's like I just want to like flex my creative muscles and just keep on experimenting and like maybe like testing different things and just like seeing what happens basically. It's like super it's been very dynamic, just like the things that people decide to talk about or just like the way that all these interactions go. And I also like definitely wanted to focus my creative energies on something during this time that we are
Yeah.
like with a quarantine, and it just seemed kind of right. Like it just like all these like resources fell into place, and for whatever reason, another kind of like number synchronicity, when I started releasing them, I realized that all the episodes numbers were the same as the date. So episode 1 is on the first, episode 2 is on the second. And I was like, okay, now I have to go like the whole month. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? It's just like I need to finish this. Like, so it just felt like the right kind of challenge
Yeah.
and just like a fun way. And I also feel like it's really important right now just to keep like talking to people because I'm just kind of like at home all day, like, and I mean like I'm definitely using a lot of the time to like develop myself and to just like work and like get stuff done that way, but also just like something about the connecting with people is
Yeah.
really like therapeutic for me and is helping me grow as a person and as a man. And I also just feel like I know that the kinds of conversations that I find myself in, like other people can draw something from it that maybe they
Right.
need to hear. So that's I just wanted to like share the little bit of magic that happens when like people start like talking to me, if that makes sense. I don't know, that sounds like
Yeah. No, it does. I mean, you have some really great questions. I feel like you're really good at kind of, facilitating a really great, thorough conversation and really valuable conversation as well. Because I mean,
Thanks.
I've said a lot. I don't even remember everything that I've said, but I feel like we've been talking like forever, and you're making me think about stuff that I hadn't really thought about. So,
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
that experience alone is therapeutic.
Yeah, thanks. I'm taking that as a compliment. Like
Good.
I love to one of the things that is one of my intentions with just the way that I move with purpose is I want to send people back into their wiring. I want them to kind of reconsider the things that they say or maybe just see it like widen perspectives. It's just like something as simple as like rewording something that another person says causes like everybody that to hear to kind of be like what? Like, oh, like it's like I love those little moments that and it's like we have this power or at least like that's what I like to develop is causing people to get like introspective and really like sometimes like challenge the things that like come out of your mouth or just like reaffirm like the positive programs and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but I enjoy talking about it. Yeah, do you want to wrap this up or you want to keep going?
It's completely up to you.
All right, yeah, let's follow let's roll with the momentum. This is pretty awesome.
Let's see.
Yeah, do you have any other questions?
I was gonna say earlier, but I cannot remember. It had something to do with school. I just cannot remember what it was.
Okay. What did you major in, by the way?
Psychology with a
Okay.
business emphasis. I was a chemistry major at first, and I
Whoa.
was pre-med. And essentially what happened, because I love chemistry, but my freshman year, I had one professor like in particular, and I realize now that it was more so my own, you know, mental blocks that kind of led me to make this decision. But I just felt like he wasn't very supportive and encouraging. Like I always sat in the front of all of my classes, and like if I got a question wrong, or if I got an answer wrong, like he would like ridicule me, and if I got one right, he just wouldn't, like, it was nothing. And it was just like, it just made me feel like, why am I here being kind of bullied by this professor? And like the other students would even say something to me like, does he not like you? And I didn't know. And I was just like, it made me feel horrible. And then on top of that, my living situation, my roommates all practically hated me. It was just horrible. I was working all the time. I was studying really late, was studying while I was working, and chemistry it just made me not like it anymore. The whole experience, it just became stressful. And yeah, it was kind of disappointing, but then I also really, once I thought about it, I realized that I was only really doing it because it's what everybody else said that I should do. Because even though I loved chemistry and I was good at it, the main reason why went into chemistry as my major was because my chemistry teacher in high school, was telling me about how we need more Black chemists, we need more women chemists, we need more of this. And then my mother was like, oh my God, you're going to be this. And like everybody's just like, way to go, you Black woman chemist. And it was just like, is this really what I want? And it really wasn't. It wasn't. And even though I still love medicine, I still read medicine books. I still have my little triage games and like to do prognoses because it's fun. But I just realized with that, I wanted to be an anesthesiologist at first. But then with my whole like physical stuff, I had a lot of little health issues. And I felt like that wasn't the right path for me because going to medical school and then doing my residency, doing a fellowship and all that stuff, I like interviewed anesthesiologists and it just seemed like it was way too taxing. And I like at that point in time, this was like right after I had my surgery, I like could not imagine walking and being on my feet almost 24/7 and doing all of this. And so I just kept thinking, I feel like I can see myself going down this path and I'll be very unhappy. So I just kind of found, I mean, I don't want to say I found psychology because I found psychology before that. I just never considered it as like a career path because I never wanted to be a psychologist. I always said I don't want to be a counselor because I know I'm too sensitive. And if I'm not able to give someone the breakthrough that they want or whatever it is, like dealing with people and like emotional disorders and stuff, I know I would not have the right kind of compartmentalism to deal with that kind of career. So I just felt like that was the only kind of option that I thought that I had. And then I started studying business psychology. And then that's where I really found it that I just love empowering people and training people and helping people to be their best selves. That's what I liked. So, yeah, I don't know what your question was, but that's my
That's
answer.
yeah, that's cool that you this like the way that society kind of makes us like go down a certain path. And
Yeah,
then there's that point where it's like, do I really want to like commit to this? Like, is this gonna be worth my time? Is this gonna make me feel fulfilled? And
right.
I had a like a similar moment like that where I was like a business major at Ventura College, and I remember I was in calculus and business calculus, and I'm just thinking like I'm in this class that I'm not doing that well at, that I don't really like doing, and I don't really want to like be doing more of this kind of thing. It's just like it was like kind of like an aha moment for me. And in that same semester I was also taking a philosophy class, and that it was a weird like that timing that we're talking about. It was just like in philosophy our teacher was lecturing how like he was sharing his story about how he didn't do what everybody else did. Like he decided to go like travel before majoring in something, and then that led him to like what he did. And I was just like, oh wow, like I don't have to do what everybody else is doing, kind of thing. So then I decided to switch to music, which I knew that like I loved and I was passionate about, and it was also like I could just like I knew that I would be able to immerse myself in music forever, kind of thing.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Yeah,
Have you taken the Myers Briggs test?
I have.
What?
Um, I don't, let's see if I can remember. Um, because I took it like my freshman year and it was different. Like when
Yeah.
I think I took it again last year. Um, I trying to remember. So I know in N, yeah, N.
And like
I don't,
intuition?
yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's all good if you can't remember. It's whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember the actual like things. I know I'm more. I mean, I disagree with this because I tested for like as being an extrovert. I don't know that I would consider myself an extrovert. I guess I am more. I don't know. I feel like I'm more introverted, but I don't even know. I'm not even gonna.
All right.
I feel like sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I'm overly analytical, but I am intuitive. So I guess we'll do that. Where I'm an N. That's what I am. That's
All
my
right.
entire thing.
Cool. I can dig
Anyway,
it.
what
Yeah.
about you? So maybe you can help me jog my
Yeah.
memory.
Oh, I'm ENFP. So it's extrovert, intuitive, feeling. Oh wait, no, no. Actually, so I switched between the P and the J, like the last letters.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah,
Per
it's
is
like
judgment.
prospecting and judging. So I'm actually a J right now.
Gotcha,
ENFJ.
gotcha.
Yeah.
ENFJ. Okay, so then I must have been ENTJ.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever that
Wow.
means.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know actually. I don't know why that popped up.
So I mean, I don't know. Do you feel like that's a good representation of like who you are, at least like where you are now?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's like a good like perspective that this like random test on the internet can give oneself,
Yeah,
just like another way to like analyze what we got going on in our lives. Because I don't think like we're too like we're too wavy to
yeah,
put into like these little like certain categories, which I mean it's cool to get like a certain picture on it, but yeah, I think I mean I've definitely gotten insights into myself from just like
hmm
reading about what my personality is or like what others
yeah,
personalities are. So there's that. And I think it's just like fun. It's just like a cool way to see like, oh, like, oh, I'm the same as like Barack Obama or like, you know
yeah.
what I mean?
No, that part is definitely cool. I don't remember who, if anything. I do know for sure thinking more than feeling, which I feel like when I first thought about that, I kind of took it probably in a more negative way than most people would. But because I know that I've always had a problem communicating how I feel with people, and I don't know if it has anything to do with like I don't really know 100% what it is, but I do know it's like part of a personality thing where I'm very, very analytical and just try to be really logical. So it's like if I feel like I'm talking about something or like whatever the interaction is, I'm more likely to look at, things in an analytical way and look like think about facts and not just feed off of emotion. But with that insight, it's helped me to build more of a rapport with people and connect emotionally because I realized that I was really lacking in that. And my first impression with people was usually like, people were kind of intimidated because I was just so factual, so like this and that, and not really connecting. And so that's what I've learned how to do now. And I've been actively focusing on connecting with people and communicating more like empathy and stuff like that. So I do think it's a really good like tool to kind of use as like a reference to give you a better idea of like maybe what you need to work on or how what you would prefer, how you would prefer people to view you, and just understanding what you can work on.
Yeah. Yeah, those are really good thoughts. I like the way you put that.
Thanks. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's not really a negative way of thinking about it, but I just realized that, I wanted to, when people talk to me, I want them to feel comfortable and I want them to feel like we can relate and not just, you know, because I was always like the friend where it's like, if you ask me for my advice, 9 times out of 10, I didn't really consider how you felt about it. I just told you what made more sense and what was best for you more than likely. But now I know how to communicate based on who I'm talking to and understand like if you need me to kind of, be more of an emotional support and stuff like that, understanding that that might be more of a priority than anything else. Before I didn't really understand that. And so now it's kind of like helped me, with my friendships and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a really important thing to just understand that like not all people receive information the same way, or not all people they just react and go about life the same way. Like there's it's a really useful skill to be able to like talk to this wide variety of personalities. And
Yeah.
it's yeah, and it's also it's like a skill that like we can get better at, and just like by wanting to get better and like practicing it, that like it's so such a trip how just kind of just see it, like I just like the way that it's like worked in my life, because from
Yeah.
my examples like I just like by the like definitely working on like people skills,
Hmm.
it just like new opportunities show up, and just like people like receive me differently, and it's like whoa, like I'm still the same me,
Right.
but like just like different things are happening kind of thing. And it's pretty freaking cool that self-development opens up like a bunch of new paths, and
Yeah.
just, like puts us in really like solid positions, and it's like it's just like growing exponentially.
It really is. Like once you like tap into that and really, make that your priority or make that your goal, I think it's incredible. Like I love that, self-development or improvement, transformation, whatever. I love that it's become such a big topic now. What I'm hoping within the next, especially within the next few months, is that people really understand how to take it, like how to make it less of a trend and more of a, an actual thing that you're like a lifestyle, like
Yeah.
a philosophy on life is really just growing. Because once you realize like anything in life, like most things, I don't want to just throw out everything, but most things in life, I feel like 99% of things in your life you can improve in some way. Parts of your personality, your health, your relationships with people, your ability to, do your career, like skills, like you can literally improve. There's always a better way to do anything. And so it's like that to me is really beautiful because it's like like the limit really, it's funny because I don't know if you're familiar with Mean Girls, but the whole like the limit does not exist thing. But
Like the movie.
yeah, yeah. And so, they have like the little burn book. And so in the book that I'm doing, it's instead of saying burn book, it just says vision book. But I titled it Vision Book, The Limit Does Not Exist. Because I was just thinking about it, like it really doesn't. Like I think when people think of infinite possibilities, they don't really see it as a reality because it just sounds so like crazy, like law of attraction this, law of attraction that. It's like, oh, like you can have the life you want. And I feel like we're so overwhelmed by all of these, not to say that anything's wrong with like influencers or gurus or people that are really speaking out about this stuff, but I feel like when people have access to so many different personalities and so many different perceptions of the way that to think about these things, they lose track of the basics. And the basics are you do these things, you figure out how to work it for yourself, and that's where you navigate it for yourself. You don't have to do things the way that everybody else has been doing things. And so that was just kind of like my spin. I feel like we both have a really, or I should just say, I have a bad habit of just kind of going off on a tangent and forgetting exactly what we were talking about. But
No, that's been the theme of this.
I
Wait, what'd you say?
just said that's just what popped into my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely, yeah, we're resonating on that. I think
Yeah.
this is a good spot to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to let the people know? Yeah, like a website or where they
Um,
can.
oh, I mean, you can just follow me on Glow Guidance. It's GLO period guidance. I think I was in Best Buy and some guy asked me and I was like, it's Glow Guidance, like no guidance, but Glow. Like this. I don't know why I thought that was funny. It's not. I'm just cheesy. So it's glow guidance. Just follow me there. That's all. Get some daily positivity. Just
Heck yeah.
that's it. I'm not gonna promote anything, but
Okay. Thank you, O'Shea. This is really awesome.
yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.